Metroidvania demo impressions.
Hey, it's the Metroidvania Guru, and welcome to Metroidvania Demo Impressions, where I give impressions about an upcoming Metroidvania's demo. Easy enough, yeah? Today's Metroidvania is Lucid. You play as Owen, a sentinel in training who's preparing for his big cleansing day. But, of course, things go awry, and poor Owen gets sucked into something bigger than he expected. Lucid's a Metroidvania I'm very excited for lots of reasons. Of course, I like the art. It reminds me a lot of early Heart Machine, who are the developers for Hyper Light Drifter, one of my favorite games of all time. Looking forward to the music. It's supposed to be very Donkey Kong Country, David Wise inspired, and Donkey Kong Country 2 has one of my favorite soundtracks in any video games, with David Wise being my favorite video game composer. And David Wise is a guest composer on Lucid, so that's exciting. And I'm excited for the game's platforming. I've heard it described as a Celestvania, Celeste being a very difficult platformer I'm sure you've heard of. I liked Celeste a lot, but I'm a little worried about such hardcore platforming being in a Metroidvania. Eterna Noctis had very heavy platforming challenges, and that game drained me. Still looking forward to the sequel though. I saw a tweet or X post by the game's official account discussing its Pilgrim Lanterns. You'll be doing a lot of aerial shenanigans to progress in this game, and the Pilgrim Lanterns are a diegetic way to alter the game's difficulty. You equip a talisman at a save point whenever things get too rough for you, and this talisman adds additional lanterns to more challenging sections, which I think is absolutely genius as well as courteous. I know it's extra work for the devs, but including accessibility options is the way to go and the future of gaming. We all love a challenge, but sometimes we're just too tired from a long day at work and need a little help so we can see what happens next in the game's story, you know? Personally, I don't touch accessibility options that pertain to difficulty because I want to take on a game as it was intended, but I'll never get upset that the option exists. Well, that was a whole lot of talking and preamble. Let's actually get into the game. Lucid is very much what I expected it to be. A fast-paced platformer with a whole lot of tough platforming. The platforming in this demo wasn't so hard that I had to bite my controller to keep myself from chucking it at my TV, but there were a few sections that made me sit up and lock in. There are a lot of mechanics at play when it comes to Lucid's platforming. I honestly don't want to go over every single mechanic here because that'd be boring, and it's really something you have to experience to understand. And even though there's a lot to take in, it's not overwhelming. It's a case of easy to understand, hard to master, and the game has an appropriately lengthy tutorial section to get you up to speed, introducing players to its platforming, combat, and systems for player expression. Once the tutorial section ends, the game gives players free rein to explore Lucid's world. The platforming comes at you fast and loose, and you'll love to see it. It's tough to describe the game's platforming succinctly. I'd say it's like the Messenger or Bow Path of the Teal Lotus, but to the extreme. Smack stuff while you're midair, and you refresh your jump so you can stay in the air. Smacking stuff also refills your crystal arts, but I'll get into those in a minute. I say refill because you have a limited amount of maneuvers you can do while airborne, tracked by meters in the game's corners. Once you exhaust your jumps and whatnot, you fall to the ground and have to start all over. It seems like a lot to keep track of, and I suppose it is, but I was able to just track everything in my head no problem for what that's worth. And we're just skimming the surface with the game's platforming. Beyond the mechanics, there are a ton of things to interact with that mix things up. You have gems that move when you hit them, walls that break, statue heads that explode, enemies you can bounce off of. Some of these sections will get really wacky real quick, and I mean that in the best way. I really did have a lot of fun with Lucid's platforming during this demo and can't wait to see where things go from here. As for the game's combat, this is where the crystal arts come in. In the demo, you mainly play with the sword crystal art, which has a 3-hit ground combo that becomes a slashing air dash when airborne. There's actually a bunch of different moves and combos you can unlock in this demo if you're interested, but I'm mainly stuck with the basics because I'm just basic like that, I guess. Regular enemies weren't too much of a hassle. Owen is just so flexible with so many options. He can carve you with a sword or take you out long range, Mega Man style. Shooting enemies damages them and breaks their poise, temporarily stunning them and making follow-ups with the crystal sword do more damage if I recall correctly. Bosses are pretty cool as well. I liked this dude a lot. Taking him down required a mixture of combat and platforming, which I'm sure is going to be this game's theme moving forward, as it should be. There's a lot more I could talk about, but I really think you should check Lucid out yourself. There's tons of things to find and a few side quests to embark on. It's a pretty meaty demo, clocking in at about an hour and a half to complete and about 3 hours if you explore the game thoroughly. There's a post-game with a lot of content, which was a pleasant surprise. For just a demo, there's a lot to do, explore, and experience. Consider me more hyped than ever for Lucid after playing this. If you really dig the platforming side of Metroidvanias, you should definitely give Lucid a shot. The game's art looks great, the music is living up to the hype, and there's just a lot to do in such a small package. This is an incredibly well-made demo that's making the wait for Lucid's 1.0 build that much more excruciating. Let me know if this looks like a game for you, and if you tried the demo already, let me know what you think, and make sure to hit like and subscribe on your way out. It helps out more than you know. Until next time, later nerds.